Welcome back, folks, to Kleppers Corner. Today in the news, August 18th, 2025. It's that magical time again where we try to make sense of the nonsense, stitch some coherence into the chaos, and ask the important questions like, why is Putin smiling in The Beast? Why is Texas putting the 10 Commandments in classrooms but not, say, air conditioning in them? And most importantly, when the world is burning, why do I still get emails asking if I've accepted my free trial of LinkedIn Premium? Let's dive in. Segment 1, the Washington Summit, a united West confronts Putin's peace terms. So today in Washington, we have the diplomatic equivalent of an Avengers crossover. Zelensky, Macron, von der Leyen, Starmer, Merz, Maloney, Stubb, and Ruda, all flying in like NATO's version of the Justice League. They've gathered to stop Trump from cutting a deal with Putin that makes Ukraine about as included as a vegan at a Texas barbecue. Why? Because at the Alaska summit, Trump basically said, ceasefire? Don't need it. Putin and I will just wing it. And then, just for good optics, he invited Putin into the presidential limo, the Beast, where Putin was smiling like a guy who just figured out how to Venmo Crimea directly to himself. European leaders freaked out because the whole policy for years has been nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. But Trump's like, nothing about Ukraine without me, because I look great in these photos. Now Putin's big ask, the Donbass region. Basically, give me the land and I'll stop being mean. For now. That's like a bully demanding your lunch money, but promising he'll never punch you again, unless, of course, he's hungry. In exchange, Russia might accept some kind of NATO-like guarantee for Ukraine, which sounds good, except no one knows what NATO Light is. Is it like Diet Coke? Same flavor, half the protection? Maybe it comes in a can and says, warning, does not actually defend against Russia. And Zelensky, he's in this impossible spot. If he says no, he looks like the guy rejecting peace. If he says yes, he loses half his country. It's like being asked, would you like to save your home or your family? Pick one. And let's be honest, Trump isn't negotiating based on alliances, history, or security. He's negotiating like it's a timeshare deal in Miami. Give Putin Donbass, throw in a NATO guarantee, and maybe, just maybe, I get a tower in Moscow. Segment 2. Texas overhauls public education. Everything's bigger in Texas, including the lawsuits. The Lone Star State just dropped an entire buffet of new education laws that basically scream, school is now Sunday school, but with less TikTok. First up, Senate Bill 12 bans DEI programs. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are out. The message is clear. We don't care if you're different as long as you're exactly the same. Second, Senate Bill 10 mandates a giant 10 Commandments poster in every classroom, 16 by 20 inches, minimum, because nothing improves math scores like staring at thou shalt not covet during algebra. Though, honestly, when the kid next to you has a cooler calculator, good luck with that. Third, cell phones are banned during school hours. Parents, rejoice. Teachers, breathe a sigh of relief. Students, panic. Because how else will they cheat on tests, text their crushes, or make TikToks about how boring school is without their phones? And finally, schools are now allowed to carve out time for prayer, which means every kid gets to awkwardly sit through a daily battle of whose God gets the mic today. But wait, there's more. Like a bad infomercial. There's also a $1 billion school voucher program that lets parents take taxpayer money and give it to private schools. So Texas found a way to both underfund public schools and also outsource your kids' education to a Jesus and Dinosaurs Academy down the street. The ACLU is already suing because, let's be honest, Texas just turned classrooms into legal battlegrounds. And the result? A future where your education depends less on what you learn and more on your zip code. Segment 3, U.S. crime and immigration fear. In Tremonton, Utah, 3 police officers were shot while responding to a disturbance. Thankfully, the suspect's in custody, but the whole thing got even messier when the mayor posted on Facebook that 2 officers had died, only to delete it when it turned out to be false. Because nothing says leadership like live tweeting a tragedy with misinformation. Meanwhile, in New York, immigrants are skipping their court dates because they're terrified of being detained. Imagine being so afraid of ICE that you don't even show up to your hearing, which is literally the one chance you have to stay in the country. It's like being so afraid of the dentist, you just let your teeth fall out. And here's the kicker. The IRS is sharing taxpayer data with ICE. So now paying your taxes could literally get you deported. Somewhere, Wesley Snipes is whispering, "Told you so." Segment 4, Global Hotspots, Korea, Lebanon, Bolivia. South Korea and the U.S. just kicked off their big annual military drills. North Korea's response? Rage tweeting, basically. Any provocation will be met with fury, which is the North Korean way of saying, we're not invited to the party, so we'll burn down the house. Meanwhile, the U.S. is telling Israel to comply with Lebanon's plan to disarm Hezbollah, which sounds reasonable until you realize Hezbollah's arsenal makes Texas classrooms look like Nerf battles. Israel's not exactly rushing to hand over the keys. And in Bolivia, the ruling party just collapsed harder than my fantasy football team. The official candidate came in sixth. That's like showing up to a two-horse race and still losing. Now the country's headed for a runoff between a centrist and a right-winger, which means goodbye pink tide and hello centrist beige with a splash of nationalism. Segment 5, Business, Economics, and AI. Markets are jittery ahead of Jerome Powell's Big Jackson Hole speech. Investors are like, will he cut rates? Won't he cut rates? Find out this Friday on As the Economy Turns. Meanwhile, Air Canada flight attendants walked off the job, and honestly, I'm amazed they lasted this long. Imagine working for Air Canada where the slogan is, sorry about the turbulence, eh? And AI is now revolutionizing global trade by classifying products. Yes, artificial intelligence can tell you whether your imported widget is a toothbrush or a tactical drone, which is comforting because if there's one thing we want the robots to get right, it's which shipping container has toothpaste and which one has uranium. Segment 6, America's farm worker crisis. And finally, the story no one's paying enough attention to. America's farm workers are dying in the heat. They're 35 times more likely to die of heat-related illness than anyone else, which means the lettuce on your sandwich probably came with a side of human suffering. This isn't just about heat stroke. Doctors are seeing chronic kidney disease linked directly to dehydration. Basically, our food supply runs on kidneys that are being slowly destroyed. That's not a metaphor, it's science. And these workers, paid on a piece rate system that punishes them for taking water breaks. It's capitalism at its most dystopian. You can drink water or you can eat tonight. Pick one. Meanwhile, only a handful of states have protections against heat for workers. The rest are like, well, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the farm, which is hard when you live in substandard housing with no AC and can't afford to move. This isn't just a labor issue, it's a national security issue. If farm workers collapse, so does the food supply. And when Americans can't get their avocados for avocado toast, trust me, that's when revolutions happen. In conclusion. So that's your August 18th news wrap. World leaders squabble in D.C. Texas turns classrooms into church basements. Cops get caught in chaos. Immigrants hide in fear. North Korea yells from the sidelines. Bolivia reboots its political system. Markets tremble. AI scans our cargo and farm workers sweat so we can have a salad. And through it all, the world keeps spinning, probably into the sun. But at least we'll have jokes on the way there. Thanks for watching Kleppers Corner today in the news.